Having a bit of a day wrestling with the Lincoln Green. Yes. So I need to find out why the gearbox is leaking oil. So I either take the engine out or I take the gearbox out. This thing's just turned. Everything today has been conspiring against me, I'm afraid. It happens sometimes. Just coming to putting this thing back together again, just double checking all the bolt torques and so forth. It's all going nicely so far. And then I found out why. There's only 5 bolts holding the left-hand front swivel ball housing to the axle casing. Yeah. Oh, great. Ah, that makes my day, that does. Why not do it while it's out of the bloody car, eh? Anyway, I'm going to have to drill that bastard out now. Which is a pain, but it happens. Never mind. Going to get busy with the drills. Other than that, things are starting to go back together. So I've checked the swivel preload, got it all assembled on the bench. Swivel preload all done on one of the swivels. That's all done. Happy with that. Now, I had a devil's own job getting the heater unit out. Normally, they just tilt forwards over the top of this lip here. So I put some light back on the matter. They tilt forwards over this lip and then slide out through the passenger footwell. No, not this one. No, this one did not want to do that. Let's just put that back over, because obviously I've got nothing in the gear stick at the moment. So I've undone all the fixings around the transmission tunnel, which is, it's not the most beautiful one out there, but, you know, the car's going in for a fairly extensive body overhaul. Let's pop the light back there. Yeah. Oh dear, oh dear. Exhaust manifolds had to come off because they're off a saloon, and the engine's got P38 heads on it anyway, so we probably need to exploit that, really, and I think having single port saloon manifolds on there, probably from an SD1, I don't know. You SD1 aficionados out there will tell me. What have we got on here? 2 part numbers. We've got an ERC 2995, and we have got a ERC 0813. I'll look those up when I get home. I'll comment down below the video as to what they are, but obviously absolutely useless for a Range Rover application because the manifold points straight into the bulkhead, so they had to come off anyway. Right, let me get this cover out and then I can show you what I find. I found the last half dozen tiny self-tappers, pop rivets and big lumps of filler. We've got the transmission tunnel cover out. Yeah, gearbox, the customer tells me has been refurbished. To my mind though, everything is sitting a bit on the high side. Now I don't think it's the gearbox. All of these mountings are loose on here, by the way. So I'm going to have to go through and check all the mountings. This exhaust is not going to stay on here. So I'm going to take this exhaust system off while I've got this cover out. There's the transfer box lever, and it appears to work. It's moved around for some reason, so I need to just double check that and get that positioned back where it needs to be. We've got the remains of a clutch pipe there folded up across the top of the gearbox and a cut off loom. Yes, that, like I say, well, there is a brand new loom going to be going into this car, and I think that's probably quite sensible. But yes, I'm quite pleased to have done that. Got that all out of the way. I'll need to get it tidied up next, and then work out where all the oil is leaking out from. I've been over and just double checked, the overall cases. All of this shit up here is, I think it's clutch fluid, because the pipe's just been dumped on top of the gearbox, and whatever was in the clutch pipe has just emptied itself onto the top of the gearbox. But I'll soon tidy that mess up. That's not a problem. It's nice when you get to see the actual bare bones of the thing. Right, now what next? Well, I'll find the other end of that clutch pipe because that's down there. It's there. Look, the bracket and everything's all bent off. In fact, it's just been cut off, I think. Because that pipe should go up through here. And then up the bulkhead and across the other side. So I think I'll just cut it off and I'll be done with that. Oh, dear me. It moves forwards a step. It moves forwards a step. Now, exhaust manifold was fitted with these socket head bolts. I don't like them. I like them in places where, you know, things aren't going to come loose easily. So, for instance, the rocker covers. Even the inlet manifold, I don't like it. But the exhaust manifold especially had locking tabs on it. Now, these didn't even have spring washers underneath them. And those manifold bolts, I think that's why it's sitting too high. I think it's got the wrong engine mounts in it. The manifold bolts do up to about 30 foot-pounds, which is barely anything. Slightly more than 29 foot-pounds and a little bit less than 31 foot-pounds. And, okay, you can thread lock them in, or you can use the proper lock tabs. But you can't use lock tabs on these because they're round. They need hex heads, bolts. So, yeah. And then other details on this thing. It's beautiful. Look at all these dome-headed bolts he's put on the engine here. Quite like it. Obviously, it's a low water pump engine. It's come out of a saloon, I believe. It is a... What is it? I'll have to look at the engine number in a minute. Oh, dear. It's low compression, though, apparently. Right, well, let's move forwards a step. Oopsie. Well, that's torn it. Okay, engine had to come out because I've got a problem with oil leaking down the transmission tunnel. You can see it's all kind of solidified in there, and the bottom of the oil pump, at the bottom underneath the input shaft, is dripping with oil. So I need to replace the gaskets in there and just double check everything's torqued down. It's not ideal having it all leak its fluid out, but I thought, well, while we're at this stage, it's only, what, a couple of hours to get the engine out. Once all the transmission cover and everything else had come out, so there you go. It's a fairly major kind of piece of work, but I'm rather hoping that once this is all back together again, then I'm just down to axles, electrics and so forth, and we can get this thing up and running. Yeah, right, now, the other thing I noticed while I was in here, very nice, bloody great big lump taken out of the bell housing, and I couldn't work out why, and the customer told me, yeah, this gearbox was mated up to an adapter plate, and then to a Perkins Prima, a long time ago. So, I need to get that sorted out. So, I've got another bell housing. In fact, I've got a number of gearboxes here, so I'll swap the bell housing over from one gearbox to another, and we can get that sorted out. Oh yes indeed, yes face. So yeah, bell housing's actually held on with 6 bloody great big bolts. Well, actually 4 bloody great big bolts and 2 nuts. There's a pair of nuts at the top there, giant bolts either side, and then 2 bolts down at the bottom here, and then the whole bell housing comes out. So that's going to be my next task. I might give the one that goes back in a little bit of a scrape around, just so it looks a little bit, God knows how the feather got in there, so it looks a little bit less shit. But you can see the oil dripping off the bolts on the bottom. That's the oil pump, that bit there. You can see the oil dripping off the bolts down there. So something's gone wrong in that gasket face. I suspect it's the oil pump, which is a small cover that goes over the front rather than the overall front cover, because the oil is actually on the bolt head, directly below the oil pump cover. So that'll be where I concentrate. But first and foremost, let's get this bell housing in. Don't worry about bulkheads. All of this is going to get done as the next phase of the project work. Really, I'm here to sort out the mechanicals and the electrics and so forth. Now, I've not put the diff back in yet because, oh joy of joys, someone's glued a gasket on there. It's a horrible job. So I thought, well, rather than working upside down with a zip wheel, and knowing that the engine had to come out anyway, I might as well do it as part of the engine being out. It's not really a horrendous issue. And these things, I mean, they're dead easy to get in and out. I'm not going to bother doing too much. Oh, fucking hell. Really? You have got to be joking me. That is fucking outrageous. I'm sorry. That's a nylock nut there with the bolt going through it. So rather than shortening the bolts, we'll put a nylock nut underneath it. Oh my God. Well, there you go. So there's even more justification for taking the engine out, John. John's the owner. I'm not entirely convinced I've ever seen anything like that before. I'll need to double check this clutch plate out as well. I don't know who ClutchFix use for their plates, but I generally prefer the AP Lockheed stuff. So I'll take it all apart. I'm going to have to double check the spigot. The spigot should be okay, because I know the engine's been fully rebuilt by I can't remember who did it now, but it's been professionally rebuilt. But obviously then it's been assembled by another. That's no, that's got to be the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. Oh my God! Oh sweet baby Jesus! Yes, that's nothing to do with the engine builder. That's purely to do with whoever put this engine and the clutch together, and it went into the transmission. Yeah, don't do that, folks, because all that's going to happen is that nylock piece on the top there is going to crush down, the bolt will go loose, the cover will come off. The clutch just won't work. It's going to work for a short period of time, then it will pack up. Use the right fucking bolts. Good God. Right. Oh, John, you're going to laugh. You will laugh, John. I know you've got a cracking sense of humour. But that, yes, I'm not going to say any more about that. Yeah, right, so let's get this bell housing off and then sort out this oil leak on the front of the gearbox, and then it can all go back together again. Waiting for the impact wrench to recharge, but basically, if you're going to glue gaskets on, can you use something, folks, that is probably not an epoxy type glue? So whatever it is that has glued the gasket onto this, that's taken me about half an hour so far, and I thought, well, I tried the scraper, not a chance. So we'll try this. It's really the only way. We'll just finish this piece off, and this gasket is well thick as well. So I'm wondering if there's more than one gasket on here. I mean, Land Rover's leaked, and it's become a bit of a comedy kind of routine about Land Rover's leaking oil, marking their territory, so to speak. But there are better products out there for sealed gasket bases. So first and foremost, you want to make sure it's perfectly flat. Now this was so difficult that I actually had to go at it with the wire wheel, so with the angle grinder with the wire wheel on it in between, because otherwise it was going to take me a week. And there's still big lumps of gasket all the way over here. I don't actually know how I'm going to get it off. I think it's actually bonded on glue that's stuck there. There's a big piece down there. Really not helpful. The funny thing is though, when you take the engine out, you can actually get down in here. Oh, I left the radio on as well. I'll probably end up having to. But you're right up there. Aye, that'll be covered in fucking shit, isn't it? Bell housing off that gearbox. This is my C-suffix. Is it C-suffix? Whatever. Suffix parts gearbox. Every now and then, kind of, you just get one. It was the one that actually was in Bob. Might actually even be an A-suffix gearbox. At the moment, the casing's all untouched. I just swapped the bell housing, which had the notch cut out of it at the top for the Perkins, for this one. And the next thing I'm going to do is pop the front cover off that pump and just double check it. I just want to double check all the torque settings on the cover and work out why it is leaking from there. I haven't got the gaskets, so I'm going to have to order those up. So I was rather hoping to get this engine back in today, but it might not happen. Now, clutch bolts. You've seen kind of the debacle. So basically what we've got is all of these shouldered bolts, really long shouldered bolts, which explains why they didn't cut them down. So I've got one correct bolt. I've got all of these. Now they were all done massively tight. I mean, that's not great, is it? There is no damage to the flywheel, there's no damage to the clutch. It'll all go back together again. So I need to find a set of clutch cover bolts. I'm going to make sure this goes in deep enough, because if it's anything like the Stag cover, Triumph Stag gearbox cover, the bolt bottoms out before it's actually pinched the clutch cover, and that one is looking like it's going to be dangerously close to doing so as well. So the problem is that clutch covers these days are thinner than they have been in the past. So this is one of the things you kind of need to check for to make sure that the bolt is going to be able to do up without bottoming out. Otherwise, your clutch cover won't be tightened down, and you'll end up with the judderiest of clutches known to mankind. So I will double check the part number on them, and maybe I need to order slightly shorter bolts. Yes. Yeah, possibly, I don't know. Right, moving forwards a step. Ish. I can't fucking believe that. I mean, why would you bother even putting the engine and the gearbox in? Why not just... I don't know. Anyway, I have got the pivot pin that goes in there. I took it out of the original bell housing that came out of the car. So there's the pivot pin that needs to go back in there. They are just a push fit. They're actually held in place by the forking helm. There it is. There. Oh god, just clean my hands as well. The slave cylinder, I wasn't sure what was happening. Customer suggested it should have been replaced. It hasn't. What's more, kind of, I think it could do with replacing. I'm not going to bother with that. I'm just going to salvage the metal pipe off the back, and the clip, the bracket, and the rest of it can go in the recyc. Yes, right, clean my hands and get on with that gearbox, I think. Right, so here we are in the bowels of the engine bay. Quite comfortable in here. Seat 1. Silly arse. Right, okay, here we are. So I'm looking here at the front end of the gearbox. The bearing plate I've not disturbed in any way whatsoever. You can see all the selector rods up here. This will all just go back together with the new bell housing once I've done all this. So you've got the front cover and you've got the oil pump housing. So let's just go over now. Just double check the front cover. Now these are tight. I'm not loosening. I don't want to loosen. I don't want to fiddle with anything because this gearbox has been rebuilt. But I do just want to check there aren't any loose bolts on the cover. Now the cover I wasn't worried about. It was the oil pump that I was worried about. So we'll go down to the oil pump, and these are, so basically the oil pump is this section here. And again, I don't really want to disturb it, but I just want to check to see if there's any. Oh, that one was loose. That one's 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 not. That one's loose. Well, at least we now know. Let's just take one of these bolts out. I think these are M6. If they are M6, then they should be done up to about 10 Newton meters, which isn't very tight, but certainly tighter than they were fitted. Let's just get the washer off there as well. The washer, has it even got a washer? It's got a lock washer on it. Yeah, there's no sign of anything on there. There's no thread lock or anything, so I'm going to have to go round now. I'll just take each bolt out, thread lock it, and nip it up. 10 Newton meters isn't a huge amount, to be honest. It's going to be a case of nip it up. Should I replace the gasket? The gearbox has never run, but obviously it's leaked all its oil out. But then it's leaked all its oil out because the bolts were this tight. Yeah. So it may well have actually leaked out through the bolt holes rather than through. Ah, excellent. Stunning. Absolutely stunning. You see what happened there, didn't you? Ham-fisted gibbon. Oh, for heaven's sake, Richard. You twat. Oh my God. I'm going to see if I've got a gasket first of all. If I've got a gasket, I'm going to take the cover off. If I haven't, I'm going to probably take the cover off and use some Hylamar. What a prig. Might have got a bit berserk ordering these gaskets. Right, okay, so the gasket arrived for the oil pump. The boys are busy again. Took the cover off, cleaned everything up, put the gasket in there with a bit of blue Hylamar around it, torqued the bolts up again, refitted the bell housing. Next I need to fit the clutch lever. Now that pin goes into the front of the slave. It's actually easier to do it like this. And obviously the push rod needs to be attached onto this fork before you put it in. If you don't attach the fork on before you put it in, it can be a bit of a bastard to fit in, but it is possible. And then the last thing I need is one of the little forks that will attach the release bearing onto the fork. Forking hell. So there's a hole there, and there's a hole there, and there's a little fork pin that goes in between the two. So I'm going to go and find one of those now, like that. Only little plastic pins, but it just holds the whole thing together. Right, let's just put this in now. So I've got to once again climb into the engine bay. Very easy getting in and out one of these things, especially if the front panel's off it. Right, there we are. Sorry if I made any of you throw up violently there because of the shaking around of the camera, etc, etc, etc. Right, now that goes in there. So I've put the clutch lever has gone onto the extension piece on the front there. I've got to locate the pin. Probably can't really see anything, can you? Let's get Dale's light up here. There we are, you can see now. Look at that. Yes. Right, now this pin is... Oh, you know what's happened there, don't you? That's just come straight out of there. You fucker. You fucker! Right, we'll do it the other way around. We'll push the pin in first of all. It's on the floor! Right, pin goes in, and then we need a 10mm socket to undo the clip. Because I'm working one fucking handed as usual. Undo this clip and then put that washer behind the clip, which is what needs to happen. And then it holds the ball against the fork, and it holds the shaft and everything on. I don't think I've got my 10mm over here. No, I haven't. Of course I haven't. So I'm going to have to go and get that sorted out, aren't I? Silly arse. I'll get out of the car again now. Oh, engines go back in a minute. Oh yes. Right, where are we? Oh, God's teeth. Coffee in a minute. What's actually going to happen? Coffee is going to happen. Oh, dusty today. Da da la la. Bom 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 bom. Can you sit up here and watch what's going on? Sort of. Kind of if I did that. There we are. Right, okay. Let's get this chap off. So, fork pinhole comes off. a lock washer on it, good. And then we'll take the metal clip off. We'll push the ball into the housing. I really need this clutch arm to go down a little bit. There we are. And that goes back over the top, holding the round washer on the pin into place. We'll put that back in again. And do him up. As easy as that. Right now, we are ready for the so all I do is make sure the push rod is hanging through the hole down here. Can you see that? Down there. Make sure the push rod's hanging through the hole. So obviously the slave needs to go onto that. Ideally I'd have popped the slave onto this, but I didn't have a slave. The slave's not arrived yet. But it's fairly easy to get the slave onto that. Everything else is done. So I think really we are in a position now to pop the jolly old gearbox on. Now, one thing I didn't check on this was the position of the dowel pins. I just need to make sure the dowel pins are either on the, because there's two dowel pins here and here. I need to make sure they're either on the back of the engine, or I need to go and get them off the other bell housing, which is not a problem. Oh good, they're not on the engine. It's always useful, isn't it? But just help locate it. Ow, you bastard. So I have to tip this thing upside down and get the dowel pins off that bell housing. And if they're not on that one, then another fucking thing's missing. I've got another engine that I can get the dowel pins from. But basically just these big bastards here, it locates on there, and I think it's on that one there. But there's a remains of one in there. Better check that that fits first of all. But yes, otherwise we're done on that. Engine back in. Oh yes, I think anyway. It's better, isn't it? Less leaky, less leaky. Well, that was relatively straightforward. I never really have a problem putting these things in. The only thing I would say is when you get them in and you've got the mountings on, just double check the engine is level, because it's quite easy for the engine to go in at a jaunty angle, if you get my drift, because what the mounts on the chassis have got big slots in them. So all I do, take a baseline. I can take a baseline of the chassis, I suppose, but it really is, it's at the same angle as the body, so I'm happy with that. But that's that done. Right, we'll move on to the next step now, which is working out how on earth some of these ancillaries are going to fit on here. Like this Nesty One front cover. Well, there's no way is the alternator going to fit there, is there? So the alternator will have to go up in the traditional Range Rover position. We could probably leave the water pump on it, but God knows what hoses I'm going to put on there. And then I've got the whole breather arrangement on this thing, which again is going to be a nightmare. Because we've got EFI rocker covers on it. Yes. Installed the drive plate now, so as you can see I've used a bit of blue Hylamar around the gasket. It just helps seal things in, but cleaning the gasket faces up helps immeasurably. Torque bolts down. I have set the wheel bearing, kind of basically what you do is you adjust the wheel bearing nut until you just lose the end float, but the thing still spins freely. It's not spinning freely at the moment because it's dragging the other side as well. Take the drive plate off, it spins freely. So you lose it until you just get rid of the end float, and then literally I just wind it back like that much. And that normally works beautifully on these things. There is no discernible end float on the disc at all. And then obviously you put your lock washer over there. New lock washers, folks, yeah, okay. You got, where is one? There's one up here somewhere, I'm sure, in this box of shite. No, there isn't. Oh, that's useless, Richard. I've probably thrown it away, actually. It's probably in here. There we are, lock washers. So you can reuse them to a certain extent, but when they've been used twice already, I think generally they're kind of like, you need to find new ones really. They're pennies. Recycle. So I've done both sides. I need to get the steering track arm sorted out, so I can't really put the things on, and I'm going to sort out the brake calipers, so I need to refurb a set of standard brake calipers. I was just going to send them off to Big Red. And I thought, right, okay, well, let's get the back end off the ground, which I've done. Now, now. So, yeah, it all looks quite nice, really. Got new back plate, homemade back plates, new calipers, looks like it's new discs, and then, oh, what's that? Oh yeah, it's absolutely wringing wet with axle oil. Oh, that's good, isn't it? Right, so hub seal's failed there. So I'm going to have to drain the back axle down, and the brake lines on this thing are horrendous as well, but never mind. Drain the back axle down and then I can get this side apart. But it looks like I'm going to have to pull the hub, the stub axle off. We'll see where the leak's coming from, but basically that is. You see? You can. Yeah. Nice. Tasty. Tasty. No, I didn't eat it, don't worry folks. I don't know what the other side's like. Let's go and have a look-see. Anyone tells me to clean up my workshop and I shan't. Oh, this side's dry. Probably because all the oil's leaked out the other side. But yeah, calipers are on. I think this one's probably a bit more homemade than the other one. 4.5 dampers, look nice, don't they? Oh yeah, very nice. Fancy springs. I'm not going to be taking the axle off. I probably will just double check the prop shaft universal joints, but the front universal joints on the front prop, they just needed lube. I didn't really need anything else. I had less problems with the wheel studs, wheel nuts on the back axle than I did on the front. There was only one that really did need the 4-foot breaker bar to get it to move. I don't know why. I need to sort my floor out. This is getting horrendous. It needs an inch of reinforced kind of heavy duty concrete over the top of this. But I need to clear the entire workshop out in order to do that, so that's probably never going to fucking happen, is it? Yes. Right, okay, let's go and drain the axle out. There's nothing else I can really do under here. Chassis looks nice though, doesn't it? Chassis does look nice. Yeah, exhaust is hung up nicely there. That's good. That's, yes. Yes, 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 yes face. I mean, in fairness, the brake lines, I wouldn't normally run them over the top of the axle like that. I'd run them down and around the diff pan like they were originally, but I suppose there's no real harm in that. Oh, there's no Bose on it. There's no A-frame on it. Oh, there is an A-frame on it. Yeah, there's no Bose top bracket. There's no Bose unit. There is an A-frame on it. Okay, all right. Fair enough. These brake lines, I'll have to do something better with that though. Doesn't look right, does it? Right, enough gabbing on. Get on with it, Richard.